guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how banks are here to provide a service to you and me, but banks are definitely not your friend. Now you may think that banks are your friends because they're there to provide financing for whatever you want to purchase. They're available to lend you money to buy a house. They're willing to lend you money to buy a vehicle. And a lot of times they extend you thousands of dollars in credit limits on your credit card. But why are they doing that? Banks are simply in the business of making money, nothing else. And this is something that you must really understand, because if you do not, you will waste thousands of dollars over the course of your life in bank fees, overdraft fees, credit card, over the limit fees, etc. And these are all fees that can be charged by your bank if you don't manage your finances well enough. And I'm not kidding, a bank will literally get you signed up for a mortgage that you can barely afford. The banks only need you to meet certain criteria to be able to lend money to you. You've got to have an income, obviously. You've got to have an income for at least a couple years, and you have to have a credit score above a particular amount. So once you meet the basic criteria, they will lend you money to buy a house. And of course, there's some kind of underwriting process that the bank conducts just to make sure that you're able to pay the money back and that you're not too much of a risk. The bank is not going to lend money to anybody because they're certainly not trying to lose their money. But at the same time, you don't have to be overqualified for a bank to give you a mortgage. This is when you have to be informed enough. You have to be financially literate enough to know where your limit is. A bank will generally approve you for a mortgage for much higher than you can possibly afford. If you are trying to buy a house and the house costs you, say, $300,000, the bank may approve you for $410,000. Now, this is where you have to be extremely careful and not go ahead and purchase a $410,000 house simply because the bank is able to pre-approve you or to approve you for the full $410,000. Because if you do so, you will get yourself in a situation where you are house poor, which literally means that you have just enough money to cover your mortgage payment and nothing else. Any additional expenses that a homeowner typically has, you will literally struggle financially to make. That includes your utilities, any emergencies that you may have, maybe something breaks in the house, or any maintenance that the house requires. And I'm telling you this, as a homeowner myself, you do not want to be in such a situation financially, because the house that you dreamed of buying, the house that you desperately wanted, will financially crush you. So a good rule of thumb would be to make sure that your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance do not exceed 30% of your gross pay or your gross income. If your monthly payment, which includes all of these, is greater than 30%, let's say it's 40%, or even worse, 50%, I guarantee you, you will struggle financially and you will literally wish that you had never bought a house. Now, the same thing applies to vehicles as well. If you're trying to buy a car, the bank will lend you the money, and the interest rate on that loan may be significantly higher than you would like, but that's because the bank is trying to make money. They're still willing to take a risk on you by lending you the money with a high interest rate. It's up to you to decide how much you can comfortably afford when it comes to a car payment. Just because the bank is willing to lend you the money to buy that vehicle does not mean that you have to buy it. If you're trying to buy a brand new car and you can only afford a $35,000 car, you've got to make sure that you stick with that. If you overextend yourself and you buy a $45,000 car, then you'll get yourself in a bad financial situation and you'll have no one else to blame but yourself. Financial literacy is so vital to having a good life, good standards of living, being able to make financial progress over time, and even build wealth. If you are buying a house or you are buying a car, and you think just because you can make the payments, it means that you can afford it, then you are sadly mistaken. And remember this, banks are in the business of making money. Banks ultimately only care not about their customers or not even their employees, but their shareholders. They are definitely not your friend, and they are certainly not lending you money out of the goodness of their hearts. They're simply there to provide a service, and you as the customer have to make sure that you're not taken advantage of. And don't get me wrong, I'm certainly not against banks making money. Since they're providing a service to us, they're expected to make money. However, you just have to make sure that you're extremely careful about certain predatory practices that may be very effective on people simply because of pure ignorance. The only relationship that you should try to have with a bank is a business relationship, nothing else. Just remember this, if you made the mistake of getting a mortgage that you can barely afford, or you ended up getting a car loan for a car that you clearly cannot afford, the bank is not going to lose money. In addition to the payments that you've already made on that house, or on that car, they will foreclose on that house to get their money back, or they will repossess that vehicle if you are unable to make the payment. And if you have credit cards, like many people do, the bank may extend you a high credit limit. Once again, not because they like you, because they know the probability of you as a customer using up that credit limit is extremely high. And if you are carrying a balance from month to month on your credit card, you are one of the bank's best customers. They love having people that have credit card debt that cannot pay the balance in full. Because with credit card rates being as high as they are, by you being unable to pay off your balance in full when the statement gets made, you are literally a source of passive income for the bank. And so many people get stuck in that cycle where for years on end, they are paying interest on credit card debts for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and sometimes their entire lifetime, simply because they cannot control their spending, manage their finances properly, manage to live on less than they earn, and they simply end up enriching the banks even more. So remember, the banks are here just to provide a service to people like you and me. They are in the business of making money. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to make sure that you look out for yourself. You just have to make sure that you do not end up being taken advantage of simply because of your own financial illiteracy, simply because of pure ignorance. You need to know your limits when you're applying for loans, whether it's a mortgage, a car loan, or obtaining credit cards, because if not, you will literally pay dearly for it. And lastly, the one true way that you can have a perfect relationship with a bank and end up making money in the process is by literally be a partial owner of that bank, which basically means by being a shareholder. You invest in the stock market and you own bank stocks. If that's not the case, then you have to look out for yourself to make sure that you don't end up spending your hard-earned money on bank fees, credit card fees, over the limit fees, overdraft fees, getting a mortgage that's going to get you house poor, buying a car that is way too expensive for you to afford, and getting into credit card debt without being able to pay the balance off in full at the end of the month and end up paying thousands of dollars in interest over a period of years. That's it. If this video was informative to you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe with friends and family. It really does help me to get more people to become more financially literate and help you to make incremental financial progress as time goes by. And also, please don't forget to hit the bell button so that you can be notified as soon as I release a new video. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.